This time 3 years ago, I knew absolutely nothing about construction or business. And for many of you watching, whether you're at the very start of your career as a student or whether you are someone who owns a small company with just maybe you and one van or two vans, I'm going to be showing you exactly how I would start from scratch. The key thing, it is getting off the tools. I'm going to deep dive on how you can get off the tools and you essentially changing your job role from a tradesman to a businessman. I've had no experience on the tools, so I'm very fortunate that I can look at this only from the point of view as business. Throughout my 10 years in the military, it taught me to be a team player and having the ability to delegate tasks, which is a huge importance in running any business, whether it's construction, HR, services, anything. The principles are still the same. If you are just starting out and you, let's say, have £500 as the topic of this video, a van, and it's just yourself and you're finding yourself on the tools, one of the first steps that I would take is you need to change yourself from a tradesman to a salesman very early on. And it's very boring, it's very tedious. Alex Amorzi talks about this a lot in his videos. You are calling other companies and businesses and potential customers maybe 5,000 times, 500 times, whatever. That will become your job in the early stages. Let's say it's a maintenance company or a refurbishment company. You want to replace yourself on them tools. Now you're going to ask me, Jamie, I can't afford to hire someone. Yes, you are correct. This is because you are getting the demand and then you are doing the demand. What you should be doing is getting the demand, allowing someone else to do the demand, whether you're hiring someone or getting a subcontractor in, which buys back your time to go away and sell some more. You want to have a surplus of the demand and your ability to supply that demand much lower than the demand you have. This then forces you into a position where you either need to bring in a subcontractor or hire a relevant tradesperson for the job. This is what we did early on. We wanted to grow the maintenance company and we got a van on a business lease. To grow the maintenance company, it did not make sense just to get a load of little maintenance jobs because then you can't go and hire because the income won't be sufficient to provide the wage for the tradesman. So what we did is we got a big refurbishment job, just one, to be able to fulfill that person's wage and that person's time, while then that bought back my time to go out of my way to then go and find a load more demand. How I did this was by then phoning all of the maintenance departments of our lettings agents within a targeted area. For me, this is up in the northwest where we originated. We then built up a load of maintenance work that we could not fulfill because we had our current guy on a refurbishment, which we had then secured through Facebook. And because you've got that surplus of demand, this is then a big indicator that you have to hire to fulfill the new demand that you've brought in. You do not want to be spending your time building that stud wall or fitting that fire door. You want one of your guys, Paul, to be going around there and doing that whilst you're talking to the lettings agents or the local hotels or insurance companies, the council, social housing providers. You want to be spending your time essentially as a salesman bringing in additional jobs that your current one guy cannot fulfill. If you're a tradesman, you should already have the knowledge of how long a certain job takes. So you essentially are taking on the role of a salesman and a scheduler. You are not then the tradesman. You're booking them in. You're unfortunately doing the invoicing. You're unfortunately doing the quoting. At this point, you essentially become a QS for smaller jobs anyway and for small refurbishments. What I mean by QS, for anyone who's watching and doesn't know, it's a quantity surveyor. That's the qualified name of them who've gone to university and become a qualified quantity surveyor. However, on a non-qualified level, if you are pricing up a job, as it's called in the industry, you are essentially doing a QS's role on a much smaller scale, where you're working out the labour required, the materials needed, and the profit margin and the overall expenses that's going to be needed to fulfill that job, so you keep everyone paid and yourself paid and the company afloat. When you get to the point where you've got such a big demand that the income is paying for the tradesman that you've got, and you've got loads of work sat there, rather than thinking this is work sat there that this person needs to go into, this is your indication that you need to hire because that is income that you can be drawing in to your business bank account. Now, with that additional income, that is to cover the growth of the company. Whether it be now to buy back your time, you need an additional member of admin staff who can send the invoices, who you will then have to sit down and train and teach and say, look, your job now is to call all of the tenants and the landlords to get access to each and every property, whether it's a maintenance job or a refurbishment. Your admin will be doing the day-to-day work that you were doing early on. Now your job becomes a salesman or woman and a QS, a quantity surveyor, bringing in new sales, costing it up. You've then got Paul on the tools, going from job to job. You should at this point have a few customer complaints telling you that you're falling behind and where are you at with this job? I haven't heard anything back. Once you've got that, that's a very good indicator. Get another van, get another tradesman. At this point, you can make it's a critical decision you have to make. Do you get a tradesman in-house with your own van, your own branding, which I would always say that's the preferred option. However, there is obviously risks involved. Or do you bring in a subcontractor to fulfill them jobs? Once you've picked the route that you want to go down, whether you bring a guy in-house or a subby, you have then got the ability now to fulfill additional demand. And it is literally just rinse and repeat. There's a common theme here. It is all about buying back your time to sell more. You can even deep dive and go further down the route of getting commission-only based salesmen, which you can find on Indeed or social media and Instagram, LinkedIn, where they will scour the web for you on, like, let's say My Builder. They will call them, they will bring in the lead will come into your, let's say, your email system that you've set up. We use GoDaddy just to set up all of our email systems. Once the lead comes in, it will then get handed over to your admin staff who will load it onto the system. When I mean the system, I mean whatever CRM system you are using to track the whole process from as it comes in from the customer to being on the system to then allocating it out to the member of staff. There is plenty. If you're starting off, you've got systems like Fergus, Tradify. When you start to get a little bit bigger, you've got systems like JobLogic, Simpro, Epics. We've now got a network of property sources or deal packagers who provide us with work refurbishments from their clients and customers of property investors who buy properties all over the UK, buy-to-lets, HMOs, service accommodation, luxury apartments, manor houses, medical facilities, blocks of flats. They provide it to you, and as a fee, you will give them a fee as a thank you for providing you with that lead. What I would suggest doing is you only pay them if you actually get the job. That's a part of the agreement that you have between you and the sourcer. Because I've now got all of these people in place, I have to do fuck all other than manage the team. I say only, it is still obviously hard work. Now, at this point, once you've got the staff in place, you've been the salesman, you've been the QS, you can even hire and outsource a QS, just to clarify. But once you've gone past all of that, you have someone doing the sales, commission-based, you've got the admin staff, you've got the tradesman on the tools, you are now a fully fledged director. Whenever you get a call from your staff, it's usually a problem to solve. You want to be taking your time to do things like social media, providing content. The reason why is not to sell you some fake guru education course. A lot of the time is now, because I've got this, I'm talking to you now on YouTube or a reel on Instagram or whatever it may be. If a customer now searches my company or your company, if you're doing the same thing, you now have proof that you are doing something within the industry. But now you don't have to do anything because your media that you are now creating, because you've bought back your time from creating the systems and the people to do it for you, you've now got your time to do this, which acts as like a placeholder on social media or online for people now to look at you and see what you do, see that you're in the industry, and that builds the whole nurturing of the relationship. To recap, if I was starting again from nothing, or I had a very small company and I'm just a guy on the tools, the steps that I would take is everything I can to buy back my time. I would get off the tools and become a salesman. If you do not have the money to hire someone right now, I would potentially subcontract the work out to people that you know, because as a tradesman in construction, you already have a huge edge that you know Terry the plumber or Phil the joiner. I would go constantly calling the lettings agents, the hotels, the insurance companies, the private landlords, and bringing in work, whether it be a refurbishment and maintenance. If you only do maintenance and you're just you doing maintenance on your own, I'd actually advise bringing in one big job, which then you can subcontract out, which will allow you to buy a bit of time and money to then go and build that demand and then subcontract a few other people in. I would then get a van with your own branding on it and get it on a business lease. You already have a van, perfect, ignore that, but get a business lease on a van. If you're a brand new company, do not think that you need a huge amount of trading history. You don't. You can put a 9-month deposit down on the van, which is approximately around £3,000 to £4,000 at the moment if you're getting a brand new van on like Vanarama or Aviva. Once you've got the van, hire a member of staff in-house and use something like My Workwear to get a branded polo or t-shirt, because you do want that brand recognition. At this point, that's where it's important. You've now got your man and your van, and you dedicate all of your time to sales and doing the admin, unfortunately. Once this now grows, you've got an increased amount of demand, you can't fulfill the demand. This is at the point where you now need to hire an additional tradesman and an admin staff to deal with the customer service, and the tradesman to deal with the additional influx of work. Your new job now on phase 3 is you sell. That is it. Once you've got that point in, you've got additional sales coming in, where again, same as before, you repeat. You then move on to phase 4, which is doing the documenting your journey, buying back your time even more, and selling to the bigger clients. And at this point, I would also say start focusing massively on education. Once you've got your education dialed in and you're learning, let's say, bigger projects, or you're learning about the development process, then you might want to start looking at going down property investing, and then how you can leverage your skills and knowledge about property investing. That's one of the big 3 pillars in property investing: finding the deal, finding the money, and getting the power team and the tradesman. You've already got that one covered anyway, so now you can start focusing on the other 2. So that's it pretty much summarized. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on social media, Instagram, leave a comment down on just below on the YouTube, and please do subscribe, guys, because I can't emphasize enough how much that helps the algorithm. I noticed that 92% of you do not subscribe to me who watch this video, so please do subscribe and ring the bell and all that usual bullshit. It'll help me grow, and it'll help me provide more additional value to people like yourself and other people who may want to watch, so then we can grow the channel, I can provide value, and I can continue to grow myself and grow my company as well.